Let's talk Heisman. And it's been ebbing, and it's been flowing, it's been rising, and it's been falling. Each and every week, the favorite seems to change. Last week, it was John Mateer. Now it's Carson Beck. How about that? Miami with 2 ranked wins already this season. They just blew out a South Florida team that went into the swamp and beat Florida. Mateer right behind Beck at 9-1. Gunnar Stockton jumping back up at 11-1. Jeremiah Smith is there at 12-1 for Ohio State. They're going to have some marquee games coming up as well. Let's get Danny Kanell in here. Danny, how many Heisman votes did you get that year you won ACC Player of the Year?
I think I finished 5th overall in the Heisman Trophy. I had 3 interceptions versus Virginia on Thursday night in November, and that was it. That was all she wrote. It was done. Okay. It was a wrap.
Has history. Danny, almost a Heisman Trophy winner back in the mid-'90s with Florida State. Let's talk Carson Beck, because a year ago, he was up there. He was thought of as a Heisman favorite, a potential #1 pick in the NFL draft, and then it all blew up, and Georgia showed him the door, and now look at him.
Yeah, he's been awesome. I had my doubts about him, Chris, too, and mine was probably more from a leadership perspective, not so much of his ability. But we also have to remember he did have elbow surgery. Like, he had this major surgery on his elbow this offseason. That looks completely like a non-issue, which is great news for Miami fans. And he's playing great. I mean, I just heard you guys doing a little segment on NFL draft. I think he, for me, has looked the most like an NFL quarterback so far from within the pocket. He's also got mobility. The only thing I would say here is this race is so wide open. I almost still don't like the favorites yet. Beck has a pretty good gauntlet he's got to go through the next couple games. The Florida Gators at home, then to Tallahassee at Florida State, the next game after that. So, like, is he going to go clean through there, or does he have a speed bump along the way? I would almost want to wait and see. But the flip side, like, if he wins these 2 games, those odds may go down to 4-1 or 3-1 if he gets through that hurdle and looks like he could have an undefeated run. So I think this thing's as wide open as I've seen. But Carson Beck has looked the part. He's got opportunities here coming up with those major stages, and it sure looks like Miami's going to at least get to the ACC championship game. So if he brings Miami back to an ACC title potentially, that's a huge storyline to follow as well that I think helps get votes.
The guy who replaced him at Georgia is now up right behind Beck and Mateer with the 3rd shortest odds. It's Gunnar Stockton. And we always talk about these Heisman moments that you need to have. You don't necessarily have to have them, but if anyone has one, it's got to be Stockton on that 4th down play and then the 2-point conversion right after that in that win at Tennessee, right?
Yeah, that the beautiful throw he laid out there, that fade route perfectly, and then launched a bullet for the to Zachariah Branch for the 2-point conversion. It's 300 yards passing is sort of a number that people look for and say, wow, he had 300 yards passing in that game. I don't know if he can sustain the success, but yet I feel like, why not? Like, we saw Stetson Bennett win back-to-back national titles with a very similar style of play, I would say. They just don't put up the massive numbers from a passing position. But if you want Heisman numbers, I think that's one thing. But if you want Heisman moments, because guess what? He's got Alabama on the schedule. He's got, other huge opportunities. And if Georgia is the best team in the SEC, which I know there's a chance you could say, well, what about LSU? What about Alabama? But Georgia is very much in this race. If you are the quarterback of Georgia and you go through this gauntlet and you win an SEC championship, it almost fits the formula for how to win a Heisman Trophy. So I wonder if he puts up, McKenzie always gives the 35 passing touchdown threshold. I don't know if he gets there, but he also runs the football. So if you did total touchdowns, that might be somewhere he gets to that, close to those numbers. So absolutely, I think Gunnar Stockton's very much in the thick of things in this race.
They got a bye this week, and then it's that game against Alabama, which is in Athens. You mentioned LSU, and they might be saying we're the best team in college football. Chip Patterson's going to differ in just a little bit when he joins us. Garrett Nussmeier has not looked like the quarterback we thought he might look like, even in these wins. And they've beaten some marquee teams. I mean, you beat Florida. That's a good SEC win. You beat Clemson. That's a good non-conference win. But Brian Kelly saying today, Danny, that Nussmeier has been pretty limited in practice lately because of an upper torso injury. How much might that be affecting him?
Chris, why are you micro-assessing Garrett Nussmeier? He's 3-0. Like, that's too much criticism. I make fun because Brian Kelly was very sensitive of some of the questioning after, but I do think Garrett Nussmeier has struggled. And you mentioned that because, on Cover 3, Bud Elliott, who always does the deep dive research, going into their game against Clemson, he found a clip of them saying there was something going on with his abdomen, his midsection area, and nobody had heard about it. We had heard about the knee issue that was hampering him early in the season. It does look like he's banged up somewhat, but in either case, he is 3-0. He's off to the strong start. He has some good wins, which is great. I don't think I would waste money on Garrett Nussmeier purely from the perspective of statistically, I think he's going to be too far behind. I don't know if he can catch up there. He's got the gunslinger mentality. I think LSU has kind of been the exact opposite of what people thought. They thought they'd put up big numbers offensively, and then the defense might struggle somewhat. They've actually won with great defense and adequate quarterback play. So I know there's a lot of time to catch up, and he'll have those Heisman moment type of games that he can, clearly make a statement. I just wonder if he can get anywhere close to the numbers that you have to put up to win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, he's fallen off, but nothing like the preseason favorite, Arch Manning, who is now 35-1. And I'm not sure if everybody saw it over the weekend, but it was his worst game as a college player. It was against UTEP. He was well under 50% throwing the ball. He did have some decent rushes. He's doing that. He's scoring touchdowns on the ground. But what is going on with Arch Manning?
If you took this Heisman bet, it would be a pure leap of faith because it would be based on nothing you have seen from his play so far on the field. You mentioned what is going on. You mentioned him running the football. When they came out of halftime, I thought Sark was afraid to call pass plays because he didn't want to do more damage to Arch's mindset. I mean, he looked like a fragile, fractured quarterback from a mental standpoint, which, again, I think a lot of this is normal. He has to play his way out of it. But the thing that's concerning, these teams that they have been playing, there have been plays to be made, layup type plays. There was a highlight in there that showed him missing a wide open post route for a touchdown. Like, the plays are there to be made, and he's not making basic routine plays. His mechanics are starting to look a little bit off. The arm angle is starting to drop down a little bit. He's side arming it. Some of it looks like he's trying to guide the football to his target just to get a completion. And I saw a play where he was trying to throw it away, where you throw it out of bounds, and he threw it right to a linebacker on the other team, and the linebacker dropped it because he was so surprised the ball hit him in the hands. It is a cause for concern. While I was watching that game, because I watched a lot of it, I was legitimately wondering if Sark should take Arch out, bench him, let him catch his breath. But in the back of my mind, I'm going through the process. I'm like, well, imagine the story that would be that Sark would have to deal with all week. Why'd you bench, Arch? What is happening? Not to mention, I don't think their backup situation is great. There are major issues going around with Arch Manning right now. I hope he plays his way out of it. I would love to see him do it. Every quarterback worth his salt has gone through tough times, but there has been little things to really hang your hat on and say, all right, there's a bright side. It just hasn't been good on tape.
If you're Texas, you still haven't entered SEC play yet, but with Arch playing like this, is there any way this team could win the SEC again?
No, not the way Arch is playing this way. I had him missing the playoffs coming into the season. I thought they would be 9-3. Now I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, I think 8-4 is more likely the way Arch is playing. The defense is lights out, but I just don't think they can go so limited at quarterback where it's now becoming a liability and just trust on Arch running the ball, Trey Wisner running the ball, CJ Baxter, and just kind of having sort of an ugly style of play, which would be very antithetical to what Sark has done at every stop. He has an offensive mind, and I think that's probably the thing that's disappointing to Texas fans is this defense is championship worthy, and you thought you had that opportunity to have a very special gifted quarterback that just hasn't delivered on the promise just yet. He's got this week against Sam Houston. This will be another opportunity where it can change. I do think it's mental with Arch. If he goes out there and throws for 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 300-plus yards, I think he can regain some of his confidence. But I also thought that the last 2 weeks after he lost to Ohio State. So I'm watching very closely to see if he can play his way out of this funk because it is funky right now in Austin.
35-1 to be the Heisman winner. Arch Manning not even in the top 10, top 15 at this point. Who would have thought that through a few weeks? Danny Kanell with us here on HQ. You can also hear him on the Cover 3 podcast. The latest episode just dropped wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube page. The AP poll reactions, much more of a conversation on Arch Manning in Texas, and Brian Kelly needs to chill.